What's a cradle?
Cradle board means it's like mounted. I'll pass that round. I've just put tape on the edge. This is another one. It's the same, but on this one I used sample pot of house paint. Feel that on the back, that's a sample pot. You can paint on that. It's a pretty good surface. So
you actually buy it like this?
You can buy it not painted, and then you just prime it yourself. But see the edge here, taped it, so you can keep that wood edge. And you might want
a wood edge.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's different about it.
Yeah, so you can have a nice wood edge.
Oh, it's all board.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't knock on it. Did you?
Yeah, it's board. So I really love painting on board. Yeah. Like this is called a coloured ground, right? You start with a coloured ground, and often you'll just have one colour down. But I think it's really nice to get a surface quality going before you even start painting. You paint both sides. Even if you just paint on one side, you've still got a nice back that you can write on and put your details on and that sort of thing later. See this one, have a look at that. Look at the surface quality of that. One of these. Yeah. Drag it across there and get that nice sort of smooth finish. That's beautiful to paint on as well. These are really good. It's from art to art. But you can use those rubber spatulas that you cook with as well. I mean, those kind of things work.
I've got a couple of sign writing ones that are very simple.
Yeah, you could get those out and try them. Anything like that to give you an interesting surface. This is my Beethoven music book. Playing around with abstract and stuff in there. So the pages are beautiful. They're really strong and really smooth. So they're quite nice to paint on. So if you've got any sort of books that you don't know what to do with, they actually make really great journals. Primed, a couple of pages ready to go. Bit of collage on as a surface, and then you can paint on that. So these are just good to play around with. So I'm going to paint my kitten. I was either going to start my kitten or this black kitten here. Because a lot of people say to me, how do you paint black? Should I do black?
I'll wait for yours first.
How do you do black?
You don't use black basically.
You don't have to paint. A black animal doesn't have to be painted with black paint, that's right. Yep, so you can see some light here giving it shape in the dark. Beautiful big eyes and the transparent ears, that's all really good. I'm going to use one of these squares, so which one should I use is the question. Here's a black cat. I could do it on a dark or a light surface, doesn't really matter. Maybe I'll do it on this one. And then I'm thinking, okay, which way do I do it? You know, you've got to make these decisions. In the end, it doesn't really matter. Probably I'll go on that. Probably on that. And say if I was going to paint this is my kitten. If I was going to paint that on that square, what's really important is to have a square to start with, so you don't want to have a rectangle. So that, for example, and I'm thinking I don't want to do his whole body, maybe I could. So if I fold it down and make the thing I'm looking at the same shape as the thing I'm painting on, that's really important. So a square is a square. Then what happens, see if I could do it like that. So this is a square, this is a square. What happens when I look at it is I can look at the negative spaces to give me my shape. It's much easier to draw. So instead of looking at this, I look at around it so I can make some decisions by the negative spaces.
You could trace it.
Absolutely, you can trace it. I've got tracing paper. If anyone wants to use tracing paper, you're welcome to do that. I mean carbon paper. Have you ever used that? Yeah, you can do that. You can also grid it up. You can make a grid on here and grid it up. But something like this is so simple to draw. Look, we've just got, we can make some. I did bring some chalk as well. So if you do have a surface like this and you feel like you want to draw it on before you get your paint out, you can just draw it with chalk. You make a few little plot points. Look, I see here, this comes right up here. I can make a little mark there. This one's sort of a little bit lower, so I can make a mark there. I'm looking at this point here. It's right, look at the gap between there and the edge. This is why it's so important to have it in the same shape. So I'll make a little mark here, and I can see that's how big my head is. It's big enough. So start with a limited palette. Start with a blue and a red and a yellow of some sort, maybe a dirty yellow, and they don't have to be real primary colours. Burgundy, turquoise and yellow ochre works. And put a good amount of paint out. The thing is, if you have a good amount of paint out, you know what we can do with it if we don't use it, don't you?
Start another one.
Yeah, that's it. You can put a bit of paint down on a page in your journal or on one of your surfaces at the end of the session, and you're not wasting any paint. It's ready to go for next week. So that's always good. Note, I'm not putting any black on my palette, but I will put some white. Always put white down on here from the very beginning. So I know a lot of people leave white off until later. We need 2 brushes. So the difference from this week, we painted very dry last week. Well, this week we can paint a little wetter. So I'll take a little bit of water and I'll take a little bit of that red, say, and I'll just sort of map it out a bit, like I did last week, really. If I mix that, I get a nice dark, I get a nice sort of purple. I'll put this pupil in here, put that pupil in there, kind of go like this. But what I can do now is take a wet brush with nothing on it and push that paint around a bit as well. But I also want to use the paint I've got underneath here to be part of the painting as well. So I can do that too. Put down here a bit. And right from about now, I'll take this one again. So I've got 2 brushes on the go. Put that nose in. I was a bit high, so I'm lowering it as I go. Put this mouth in. Right now, I want to put the eyes in right now. Start with the pupils, work your way out, and get that all filled in very early in the painting. So you're looking at the eyes of an animal, and it speaks to you. So if I sort of look how much it helps with this, see, everything. That. Take some white. See, I wipe my brush. Put those little spots in too. Put them in. Look, already you've got this sort of cat grinning at you or questioning you, so it's sort of saying, what are you up to? So I can just even layer that on. A bit of that green in there is kind of nice. Yeah, that's cute. Okay, so I'm happy with that for a minute. And then I want to get some light down here, see, because I'm pretty dark, so I'm going to work in the reverse, so get some of those light shapes in. I'll just take some white and this, maybe a bit of that blue. And see, that's cool. So we all know the difference between cool and warm. This is cool kind of blues. So if I just use this, I'm drawing those light shapes in here too. There's a bit by the eye, a bit here. I could put some whiskers in it. That's not a big deal. I'll just do that for a minute because I sort of like that. And then it gets darker here. So I'll take that same colour, and this is where I've got this wet pile here, so I'll put some more blue in there. Maybe a little bit of that to make it a little bit grayer. Yeah, like that. So I'm looking at this. And this is where I'm sort of blending that to that, so I'm getting a bit of a transition or a graduation there. There's a bit of something there, up here. And I can see a little bit of a shape there. See how that, I got a mark there? I'll leave that. I'm not blending that or getting rid of that. I'll keep that because that might look interesting later. But I'll blend well here, mix well here. I'll get that little mark under here, some drawing there, here. And now I can see these quite dark shapes here, so I think I'll get that in. I'll wipe that brush, or in fact I won't use that brush, I'll go back to this brush and make it dark. Again with that blue and that dark. I'm going to try, I might put a little bit of yellow in it, just to get rid of the purple from it. Yeah, like that. So I'll block that in with that shape there. The eye's a bit big, so I'm just going to chop that edge of the eye off there. This is bluer than that's red, so I'll just use this on this side, and then I'll go to like a red. I might go in here too. Get a nice big scribble. Now I want more of a red there, so I'm going to take this red, add a tiny bit of white to it, just a dot so I can see it, and I'll get that bit. Like this. Go there. He's cute. Sorry. Now this bit here. So see this and see how it looks transparent? What I want to do to get that transparency, this is where gesso...
Are you using a different palette this week?
Yeah, I am. I just...
What, is it because you're using water?
No, I just grabbed that because it's easier to see with the white, I think, than my plastic one.
And the other one you showed us last week.
Oh, that's got a lid, so it's two lids and you push them together, and then I made that wet palette underneath.
So you're not using the wet palette?
No,
is there a
but...
reason for not using wet palette?
Oh, because I quite like this. You know what you can do, and I did do this. When I'm painting fast, I do this, but when I'm doing portraits and I've got to put it away and come back, put it away, come back, I like a wet palette because then I don't have to reload it.
Okay, just asking.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. To make it transparent, this is where my gesso would have been handy, but I forgot to bring my gesso. If I use gesso, because what I want to do, thank you, gesso is that great paint to put down and then let it dry, and then we can put something on the top, like a wash on the top. So I want to make these transparent ears, so I'm going to put this white gesso on, right, in the space where it's transparent. So here, there's a bit there. This needs to dry. What will happen, when that's dry, I'm going to wash over it, but for the minute we'll let that dry. Now what I will do, I'm about here, I will cut in around the background. So I could get a whole nother colour, because it is a light background, and just cut into the cap. And what I like to do is not cut everything in, but I'll just sort of shape that, because I think that ear's gone out too far, so I'm going to shape that up there like that. Take a bit of it off the edge there like that, and shape that bit there. Okay, bring it down a bit lower because I'm a bit high. Like this there. Yeah, maybe I'll cover that whole bit there. And maybe just a little bit on this side too. I'll just kind of go like that. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, right, I've got to do something around the mouth. So I could now add to my palette. So I'm there, and then I could get something a bit darker, like for example, I quite like this brown black. It's not a true black, it's a warm black. And if I just mix a bit of that, always when you get your black out, I think it's a good idea to mix it with a bit of the colours you're using. So you get a darker version of your dark, which is why it's good not to start with dark to start. And I can come in then, darker, sort of under the nose, through here, get that bit in, and build this nose up a bit. And just get that bit of, separate the head from the body there. And a bit pinker on that side. So if I put a bit of white into that brown, I get a kind of interesting grey. A light grey, so I could get maybe that colour there. Something happening here. Maybe I'll be able to pick this out here. Go dark in there. Wipe my brush, actually I'll wash my brush. Go dark again, mix that black with this. I'm looking here, so I want to separate that ear from there, just make that eye a bit smaller. Let's see, is that dry enough? Well, not quite, nearly. Blue, I might take the blue and a bit of white. It's not, well, it's greeny blue. Has anyone got any questions?
Well, I noticed, yeah, obviously you've done the eyes bigger.
Yeah, then I can reduce them, come down a bit.
Yeah, because I suppose like if you don't make them bigger, then it's pretty hard to.
No, you can make them, if you make them too small, just make them bigger as you go.
Well, I think it'd be easy to reduce it, just increase the size of the eye.
It's probably about about as easy each way.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not.
I just thought because it's darker around the eyes, it's easier to put the dark over the light than it is create light where there's dark.
If it's dry and your paint's really thick, you can, and I reckon I can give those eyes another layer, so I'll do that. I'll do that now. So go down a brush size. So when you're layering on top, it's nice to have a soft brush actually, which I've really on. But let me just take, say, a bit of this yellow.
I got caught up with like trying to, like you're just blocking, like you know, trying to create the fur, but then.
Oh, all the separate strands of fur.
Yeah, then you just get caught in that detail and you sort of just.
I know, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So we go lighter down the bottom here.
Force it over.
Lower my brush
I think
again.
that was my mistake last week.
Yeah.
And then up the top here, see it's a little bit tinted up the top. So if I add a little bit of red into that colour I've got, see how I take what's on my brush and on the pile and tweak it here? Then I can get this bit of the eye up. Lower my brush again. Don't try to move the paint around because I picked up a bit of paint. I've got to remix it. And then I'll get this little bit. And now I'll get the dark. And go around the eye. So see, I can see these nice sort of, it's got that line around. I've got to keep loading my brush. It's really important to load your brush constantly so you get a nice sort of, see I'm a bit wet now, I could wait till that dries, but I'll do that one as well. If I take a bit of this colour and I can section out the nose, so instead of trying to get dark nose holes in, I'll paint around them. I'll try and get them, paint the nose around those, the dark bits. What can you see that I need to tweak? Anyone?
Maybe the bottom of the chin.
Yeah, so I can see, so what I could use for that would be this light blue colour, bluey grey. See down here, and I can just pick that out, because it is in the shadow, and that bit out, so that'll make that stand out, and maybe this bit here, like that. I could go a lot lighter through there, so maybe take the grey off my brush, take the blue again, maybe even with a bit of that actually. That's quite nice. Pull that bit out. I might put that red there. See how I had a bit of white that I don't want white, my brush. Remix it. I never used all this paint. Oh, didn't want that on there either. Remix it. See, I don't want to push it around on there. I want to fix it here and then go on there. And now we go into those ears with a wash. What I could do is get some of this fluoro orange, I reckon. So I'll put a little bit of this out. So I've got that white down and it's drying. I'll get a clean brush and I'll mix a bit of water with this fluoro orange and maybe a tiny bit of that burgundy in there too. See, so I've got a colour like this.
Oh my God.
Right. And I'll just put that on there like that. See, and I create a kind of transparency.
Yeah.
It's a little bit wet there, but it's all right. A bit more of that burgundy in there. So that fluoro orange, it makes a colour like, it's almost like a skin colour. And I can get that bit, and then that bit, and then I can paint sort of around it. So I'll get the dark again, and I'll go, you know, up here, here. And I could completely change the background even, which I love to do. So I quite like this. I'll take that with a bit of white. I feel it's a bit dark. Might take a bit of that in there. Mix really, it's so important to mix really well. See how I'm mixing it? I'm mixing it with my brush, and what I'm doing is at the same time as I'm mixing it, I'm loading my brush. So I get a nice kind of load on my brush, get a good consistency with some water, squeezing it out, loading it up. And then I can come in here again just clean that background up for the second time, but leaving some of that purple poking through because I like it. So maybe just work across the top. And so I feel like that's too far across that ear. So I could even, just to show you, move the ear. So move it a bit, move that a bit there, and get rid of that bit. And look, I've moved it. It took 2 seconds. And then just redo that again. Whoops, load my brush properly. And just cut that up. Whoops, I probably moved it too much, but just to show you that you can move it, I can move it back. So it's really easy to do, just to move something, move it again, move it again.
Yeah.
And then you go, I've got to move it back, don't I?
But if it's too wet though, and then you end up doing that, I get sort of like, and then you get frustrated.
You always get frustrated when you it's frustrating.
Not to worry though, because I just think that part of the fun is making a mistake, then fixing it, and then off we go again. So now I've got like a bit of a Picasso thing happening. But in the end, if I just want to just fix that right now, all I have to do is I'll wipe that bit there, really wipe that off, take my brush again, and take another brush. Take that paint again, really mix it well. It's so important to mix it well here. I can't stress that enough. And then I kind of like some of that, what's happening in there, so I'll just clean that bit up. And I've moved it back, look at that. I've moved it back and I've added something else. I know.
So you never really have a plan in mind. It kind of evolves organically as it goes.
Absolutely. Let it kind of evolve. It's so
Well,
nice.
this is the challenge.
Yeah.
For some people.
Yeah, just it's beautiful to kind of evolve. Or just, I might want to put a bit of colour down here.
That looks shocking, doesn't it?
It's just so nice.
I mean, you're going pretty quick at the moment. If you weren't doing class, you'd be going like half speed to what you're going now. So
Yeah, probably. Or yeah, I would. And I'd be stepping back more and stepping square on because I'm working from like sideways. So when I step back here, I can see I need more head in the middle. Like his head's too flat. I'll just raise that up. And raise it up to here. So just put that on.
Oh, gee, that was easy.
Yeah, and give it another layer. So do it, just I'll get a bit more dark and just pop it in like that and then pop it in again. So kind of do it once, do it twice. So see? Yeah, and I've just lifted the head up. Just like that. And as you organically kind of build it up and sculpt it, you get some beautiful, interesting paint marks happening, and some of them you keep and some of them you get rid of and some of them you move around like that. And then just at the very end, in your book or whatever, just do that. Put it in here and prepare a ground for next time, for your next painting.
do you reckon it's better to go off a painted surface than off the light shot?
Well, this is just another method. Remember how we did the dry painting on the paper?
Yeah.
You can also do that on a painted surface too and create a different kind of effect again. So it's just another way of painting. Sometimes it's just nice to paint on paper, and sometimes you can get beautiful paper and have some paper showing through and you're just doing marks on there, so it might be Japanese paper or something. So it's good to know that technique. And sometimes you've got a painting you just want to drag on top of that too with the dry paint at the end to create fur, because that dry kind of painting where you put a bit of kind of paint on and then take most of it off and you kind of drag it like that, can create a fur looking effect as well.
So like when Bob Ross does the mountains and stuff like that.
Yeah, so he loads his brush up, he knows what's on there, and he uses it in a certain, or his knife, and he uses it in a certain way, and it's got a certain amount of paint on, yeah. So he's really familiar with how that paint's going to go off his palette knife into whatever he's doing.
Because the mountains, he does the mountains, and you just go, yeah, like how he says, you can sit there for hours with a stipple trying to create that, or you can just go like that.
Or you just go like that, and that's what
It's done.
I think that's what you want to do. You want to just go like that. That's that, and maybe spend a bit more time on the eyes or something, but on the general things, you know, just sort of get it on, layer it on, layer it on, layer it on. That's pretty wet, so put it aside, start another one, and come back to that. When it's dry, it's lovely to work on again, and you can start again. With that thin paint, you could kind of do more glazing and washing, thin the paint down, have another brush with nothing on it, a little bit of water, and move it around or take it off where you've gone too far. So now,
Brilliant.
yeah. You got an image, or I've got plenty of images. I've got extra cats here. I'm in this cat mood at the moment. To complete this painting, I set it up in my home studio, and first thing I had to do, I noticed, was shift the eyes. It's kind of hard painting a demo where you're sort of, well, you're working with an audience and you're not stepping back enough and all of that. So it's good to sort of just have your own space where you can step back and observe the shapes and build up the painting. Really, as you work your way through a painting, you slow down a bit. I find I paint quite quickly in the beginning and slow down as I need to observe the smaller shapes and the finer detail towards the middle and the end of a painting. It is a matter of laying smaller shapes on top of bigger shapes and refining tones. Acrylic paint is a little difficult in the tonal work as it does dry darker because the medium in acrylic paint is opaque, so when that dries clear, it dries sort of more true to the paint colour than it is when it's wet. And that little obstacle can mean you have to tweak your tones more often than you would in, say, oil paint. If you're wondering what that little motor was in the background, it's my kitten was on my lap, purring away like mad, and I didn't notice until I listened to that little bit of voice recording to check it. They was purring so loudly. Anyway, I think it's really important to keep some of the loose painting marks from the early stages of a painting as you go through to the final stages. So not to paint over everything and destroy that sort of initial looseness. The beautiful thing about the beginning is when you have no sort of fear of making mistakes because you can always correct them. The paint just does its own thing and is really interesting. You get some really interesting marks, but my method then is to just make a whole lot of corrections over a series of mistakes, and that refining is what creates the beautiful paint marks, sort of loose-looking layers, I meant to say. In this particular painting, I haven't really got a palette that I'm sticking with. I'm just grabbing whatever kind of colour works in for the tone I want and the temperature, meaning the warmth and the cool of it. Another thing I'm doing is using a lot of gesso in the final layers. The gesso is a paint that is usually used in the beginning layers because it's got a bit of tooth and it's very flat and so great to wash and glaze over. But I love the surface quality of gesso. It dries so flat and velvety, and I use it in a lot of paintings in the finishing layers, and I can varnish over it with a matte varnish or even a satin varnish to protect it, but it's pretty tough paint. It can be washed as well, so I just love it as a paint in and of itself and use it a little bit differently. I'm using the Matisse gesso, and no, I haven't been endorsed to promote this, but the Matisse gesso is very opaque, beautiful quality. It's got a good flow, and it's got a really good range of colours. So it's probably one of the best gessos out there, I think. And just the colour range itself is enough to do whole paintings. So yeah, it's a favourite of mine at the moment. And finally, at the end of this video, after this little demo here, I'll show the paintings that were completed or started in the class, the second lesson of the Burnside painting group, and the finished painting of mine. Of course, I'll put that as a photo at the end of this too. Nice little cat, and I'm going to paint my own little kitten to go with this one. So I'll have 2 cat paintings which will be submitted to the Bowerbird Art Fair coming up in May, and that's good for me that I've managed to complete them on time, because they've got to be in on Monday and it's Friday, and I got to get on with the other one, which I'll probably record actually and make another video, because this is a lot of fun, even though the editing's crazy hard. It takes a while to edit these videos. It's nice. I like to be able to show a more in-depth look into the process this way. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you are so inclined. As you may hear on many YouTube videos, it helps the algorithms and helps get the video out there to more people. Yeah. I'm just listening to the birds. Yeah. Crows carrying on, car door slamming. I don't know what those other little birds are.